Welcome to the Krug Show. There we go. Wouldn't be the Krug Show if we didn't get the music going. The Krug Show meets the Cohn Zone, and tonight, this evening, we're both down here in Santa Clara. We were both at practice and the 49er media session. Welcome to the show. Hope everybody's having a great day. Happy August the 12th, 5:05 on the West Coast, 8:05 on the East Coast. And, of course, I'm brought to you on my side by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Get some brisket. Tell them the Krug sent you. And, of course, we are both brought to you by BetUS. And we'll talk more about BetUS. But are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. And we'll talk more about them later on in the show. Grant Cohn is here, and of course the Cohn Zone, and we're doing a dual stream tonight on both channels. Grant, good to see you, man. We had one game in the books. The 49ers had to cancel their dual practices because they've had so many guys hurt. And then maybe the most positive thing from the game was Kalia Davis had the coming out party of his career. He looked fantastic. And we're not even 15 seconds into the presser with Shanahan after practice. And he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, surprise, surprise, Kalia Davis, knee injury, needs surgery, is going to miss half the year. I mean, I'm starting to feel like they're a little cursed. I don't want to have negative thoughts, especially in training camp. It's only August. But, man, there's just several things that have already gone against the Niners, and this is the latest.
You know what they seem like? They seem like a team that's in week 12. That's just exhausted. And they're trying to catch their breath and get healthy. It's like, it's been 2 weeks. What are we talking? How did this happen? And it's not just injuries. It's like business and drama and all kind of stuff away from the field. It does feel like a team. I don't know if they're going to miss the playoffs, but it feels like a team that's going to start the season slow. Last year, they started 5-0. That was a big reason they were the number one seed. The year before that, they started the year 3-4. The year before that, they started the year 2-4. They got the Jets week 1. I'm suddenly reconsidering if they're going to win that game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had a slow start this year.
Well, I mean, you never know, but I'll say this: a slow start's disaster this year. If you look at the Niners' schedule late in the year, I mean, they better bank some wins in September and October, or they're going to be looking at something that's really bad. I mean, if they wind up losing some key games early, they're going to have a hard time in the second half of the year kind of getting on a roll because the schedule's pretty tough.
Yeah, and last year, they weren't that much better than the Lions. The Niners were 12-5. The Lions were 12-5. The Niners won the NFC Championship game by 3 points. They were down by 17 at halftime. A big reason they won that game is they were at home, and the Lions are significantly worse outdoors than they are indoors. So if the Niners are going to get back to win it. If they're going to get back to the Super Bowl this year, they think they need to start hot and have a better record than the Lions, who, did you know that 14 of their 17 games are indoors this year?
The Lions?
The Lions.
14. Wow.
14 to 17 indoors. That's almost not fair.
I know. My only hope on the Lion front, after watching that New York Giant game, is that maybe their chemistry is in disarray because of the money they paid Amon-Ra, because Amon-Ra got jumped by about 7 Giants in that game, and it took about 15 or 20 seconds for any Lion to run over there. And I just kind of wonder, I mean, they had this incredible Dan Campbell chemistry, and I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll have to. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my part because the talent has definitely gotten better in Detroit. But
also Jameson Williams takes a step. That team is dangerous. He's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, Jameson Williams. Yeah, if Jameson Williams becomes the game breaker that a lot of people think he is, I mean, that just gives them another weapon. Not to mention their real weakness last year was they didn't have very many good DBs, and they added 5, including Terrion Arnold. Okay, so Aiyuk was discussed today. There's no movement for Trent Williams or Brandon Aiyuk, but he was discussed today. And Shanahan was basically asked about Aiyuk's conditioning, and he says he knows what he needs to do to get ready to play the season. And that was all we got on that front. The only other thing that I saw today on the Aiyuk front I showed you was that my son, Kev, sent me a note out of a Pittsburgh report saying that the Niners asked the Steelers for one of George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, or Minkah Fitzpatrick, plus a second and a third in return for Brandon Aiyuk. And all I would say is that is in line with what I think his actual value is, since we're talking about a 26-year-old all-pro wide receiver. So at least I feel better that the Niners are asking for the right players. I don't know where this thing's going to go, or if they'll ultimately consummate a deal or bring him back. But I saw that today.
That's great. I think it's great news. Thank you, Kev, for finding that. I just think it's funny how, on the one hand, the Niners are unwilling to pay Brandon Aiyuk. On the other hand, they want all kind of good players for him. Like, make up your mind about how you feel about Brandon Aiyuk. And the other thing is, I think it's interesting how the Steelers feel about this. Like, they want Brandon Aiyuk. They like Brandon Aiyuk. They would pay Brandon Aiyuk primarily because they're not paying a quarterback. But when it comes to trading for him, they don't seem that motivated. No. They don't seem to have any urgency whatsoever, which I think is very interesting.
Well, I think that they're looking at this, Grant, and saying, we're competing against ourselves. We're bidding against ourselves. Why do we do this? Why would we up our bid at all? But then you also have the 49ers that are, I mean, I would say that if you're the Steelers, you're probably looking at this going, man, the 49ers are really unique here in that they've got this great team. They've got this, they're inside their Super Bowl window. They have this awesome player. He seems to be worth a lot of money. There doesn't seem to be a big difference between what he's asking for and what they're offering. It just feels like this is like a race where nobody wants to get to the finish line. I mean, it's a bizarre. I don't think I can remember a holdout that felt this way. It feels personal between Shanahan and Aiyuk. It's felt a little less personal, I guess, in the last few days as Shanahan has talked about the possibility of Aiyuk returning. But there's not a lot of warmth there, considering Shanahan's an offensive coach, and this is one of the great offensive players on the team.
I think that Shanahan figured out that if the team gives Aiyuk the extension he wants, the one that the Steelers would give him, that would essentially push Debo off this team after this season. And when you said it was personal, I do believe it's personal. I think Kyle Shanahan and Debo Samuel are great friends, and I don't think Kyle and Aiyuk are. I think Kyle finds Debo to be completely indispensable to his offense. We've seen what happens to Kyle's offense when Debo gets hurt and misses time or just isn't 100%. And I think Kyle feels Aiyuk is replaceable. So maybe the front office disagrees. You disagree. Maybe you and I disagree because Aiyuk's younger and represents a future that Debo doesn't represent. But from Kyle's perspective, I think he doesn't want to keep Aiyuk at the expense of Debo. And that's why this is taking for freaking ever. I think the Niners want some wiggle room where they can possibly get out of this Aiyuk deal in a couple of years. And I don't think Aiyuk's interested in that. And so the Steelers are over here making life difficult for the 49ers. And I think the Niners have more urgency than the Steelers. The Steelers, no one ever gets fired over there. They win 9 or 10 games every year. No one cares. Everyone's happy and secure on that team. The Niners are the ones that have to win the Super Bowl. So I think the Niners are acting like, you know what, we'll just have him on his fifth-year option. No problem. Steelers like, all right, well, we'll see how that goes. And if your team's melting down and you want to like trade him midseason, we're here. But we're not going to up our offer because, one, none of our jobs are on the line, and two, you're gonna give us what we want eventually. I think that's how they're approaching it, and it's kind of gangster.
It is, and I guess the question I would have for you is, what do you think Brandon really wants? Because like if you had asked me after the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, I would have said he wants the biggest bag. He made it perfectly clear he wants the biggest bag, but then New England came with the biggest bag and he didn't want the biggest bag. So obviously he felt like they weren't going to win. So it sounds like maybe he wants the biggest bag that he can get on a team that he has confidence can win if he's there. I mean,
that sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to evaluate like what is his standard for what he wants. It's got to be that, right? It's got to be like he must have thought like, even if I go to New England, they're a tire fire, we won't win, so just scratch them despite what they're offering. And then it comes down to does he want to be a Niner? Does he want to be a Steeler? Would he, if money being equal, if the offers were identical, do you think he'd rather be a Niner or a Steeler?
I think in an ideal world, Kyle Shanahan would say, Brandon, I was wrong. You were right. You're indispensable. Here's the money. The offense is going to run through you next year. I think that's what he wants. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I think in the other world, Mike Tomlin embraces him like the father figure that Kyle Shanahan won't be. Maybe that's the way I see it. But I do think Brandon just wants the 49ers to give him the respect they'll never give him.
How's this going to what's going to be the end here? I mean, are we working towards an end? Are you leaning towards, you think Aiyuk's going to be a 49er and they'll work it out? Or are you leaning towards, it's inevitable that he'll be a Steeler? It seems like the people that think he's going to be a Steeler keep using that word inevitable, that it's like eventually he'll be a Steeler. It's just really about the price coming back. Where are you with this right now, Grant? Do you think are we at that point? It's inevitable. I mean, from what I heard 24 hours a day, Aiyuk said to the Niners, Pittsburgh's offering me an amount I like. If you'll match it, I'll be there. Otherwise, I want you to send me to Pittsburgh.
That seems like a fair position to take. My question is, let's say Pittsburgh's offering him $28 million a year. Do the Niners have to offer him 28, like the same contract, or do they have to account for California income taxes?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't exactly know how it works. But if you play 9 games in the state of California, you're going to get, it's like 14% that the state's taking from you, as opposed to Pennsylvania, where it's 3.07%. So do the Niners have to match it after taxes or before taxes? I'd love to know, because if it's after taxes, we're talking millions of dollars a year, 2, 3, 4 millions of dollars a year. That's complicated. My best guess is that the Niners, I mean, it feels like the theme of this offseason is everything is as messy as possible. Things are as messy as possible. So they're going to probably try to work out the 5th-year option thing. I don't think they're going to agree to an extension with Aiyuk. It doesn't seem like they're going to trade him either, because they don't want to take the PR hit. So they'll try to sell themselves that it won't be a distraction. That's fine. He's under contract. He'll have to fall in line, and it'll be a huge freaking distraction. And I think it'll be one of many reasons they have a slow start this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens if that is the case.
Do you think he will hold out until week 11, until like literally the last moment? Or do you think,
Yes.
I mean, 'cause we know he's not going to hold out for the full year, right?
Well,
he's not going to hold out for the whole season, because otherwise there's no advancement of his cause. He's going to show up for the minimum that he needs to show up for to accrue the year, right? I mean, don't you feel that way?
I would absolutely feel that way. And it's like, let's say he misses the first month or the first 6 games. I mean, the trade deadline is mid-October. Right. So if he's sitting out and the Niners are getting nowhere, they might say, you know what, this sucks. And we're going to get him for maybe a month at the end of the year, or 2 months. And will he be in football shape? Like, he's not a factor anymore. Let's just get rid of the distraction, get some picks, and move on now. Like that could be how Pittsburgh eventually gets him.
Are the 49ers a Super Bowl caliber team without him if they don't get players coming back, if they only get picks? Or do they have to get players coming back to stay in that Super Bowl contender status?
I thought it was interesting. You're at practice today.
Yeah.
Purdy did well, except for when he tried to throw deep. And it's not that he's not good at throwing deep. It's that he doesn't have Aiyuk. So he tried Danny Gray. That was incomplete. I don't even think Danny Gray got his head around. He tried Jacob Cowing, intercepted. Cowing couldn't even knock the ball down. And then he tried Jawan Jennings, and it was over his head because he runs a 4.7 something. So without Aiyuk, you really don't have a key element of the offense. I asked Kyle today, like, what do you like about Robbie Chosen? And what did he say? Oh, he's fast, or he used to be. He used to be really fast. He used to be a deep threat. I like that. It's like, okay, yeah, exactly. And who's starting right now? Chris Conley, who either used to run a 4.3 or still runs a 4.3. Like, they can distribute Aiyuk's targets to other players and get like Kittle more involved and Debo more involved, but they're missing an element of their offense that I don't think Ricky Pearsall is going to replace. This is important.
No. I mean, it's a noticeable feeling out on the field between this year and last year. As far as last year, Aiyuk was just dynamic, making huge plays, picking the ball off the grass, going 10 feet in the air, leaping and grabbing stuff. This year, without him out there, it just, if the team doesn't, there's a flatness to the whole thing. You don't have that same dynamic. And I like Ricky Pearsall. Don't get me wrong. Ricky Pearsall is the potential for him. It's all tied to his durability. And, I kind of question the durability and Jacob Cowing. I mean, he's a tiny little guy. He came out, he had one fantastic practice, and we've seen him in little bits ever since, but now he's got a sleeve over his, he seems like he's got some soft tissue things that are bugging him. So neither rookie receiver looks like they're ready to roll. I mean, if you think about it, they added 2 rookie receivers and 2 rookie running backs, and maybe none of them are ready to roll. I mean, Garendo's hurt, probably not going to be ready to play before the cut down. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Cowing played 1 day and has been hurt and kind of just, you can tell, not 100%. Pearsall is hurt. And then you've got Schrader, who has looked okay, but not great. So, I mean, they added 4 players there at running back and wide receiver. Maybe none of them may wind up making the final roster, at least to start. I mean, we'll see. They obviously Pearsall's a first-round pick. They're not going to cut a first-round pick, but I'm just saying, it's like none of these guys are Brandon Aiyuk, and we can say that definitively on August the 12th.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Pearsall in particular, like, he might end up being good if he can stay healthy. Like, we saw him run some nice routes and create a little separation, and it looks like he might be like a slot receiver. But again, I think they drafted him to potentially replace Brandon Aiyuk if Aiyuk holds out or gets traded or whatever. And I don't know that I didn't see him run a fade route and win. He ran some deep crossing routes and got open down the field, but can he just beat man? Can he run away from man covers the way that Aiyuk can, or Robbie Chosen used to be able to? I don't know. I didn't see that. So again, Aiyuk not in this offense. That's why they're so intent on getting a wide receiver back from some team. Amari Cooper would have been great, would have been perfect. Kendrick Bourne, no, not good enough. I'm curious to see. I mean, it's why you drafted Jacob Cowing, right? I mean, that's how you sold Ricky Pearsall. He ran a 4.42. We need to see that. Purdy needs that. He's not a big armed quarterback, but he can take advantage. He can threaten the whole field if you give him weapons.
Do you think we're going to see the Niners announce a historic contract with Aiyuk, or do you think we're going to see potentially not just 1, but maybe even 2 trades, right? You would have the Aiyuk trade that sent him to the Steelers, which would bring you, let's just say for the sake of it, James Daniels and a 2nd-round pick. And then what, you're going to turn around and trade that 2nd-round pick to Denver for Cortland Sutton or something like that? I mean, do you see that in the cards? I mean, it seems like it's one or the other. We're either going to see some kind of extension, or we're going to see maybe some unprecedented dual 3-team trade or a 2-trade situation in August. Or we're going to see status quo and a lot of unhappy 49er fans and a very unhappy Aiyuk. What do you think? Where are we headed here?
I just don't understand how they're going to replace this now. I mean, obviously they thought it was important during the draft, but Cortland Sutton doesn't replace Brandon Aiyuk down the field.
No,
he doesn't. So
he's a big body, but he's not a.
He can run those big routes over the middle and catch passes in traffic, and he's a good possession receiver, but he's not Aiyuk.
No,
he's not. And what's interesting is, like, it seems like Kyle Shanahan values Debo's skill set over Aiyuk's, but Debo and McCaffrey kind of do the same thing, and it's great to have pseudo running backs who are versatile, but a guy who can get down the field when you have a top flight quarterback is kind of important. I mean, this isn't Jimmy here. If the quarterback kind of stinks and you don't really want him throwing the ball down the field in general because you don't trust him to, then yeah, like maybe Aiyuk isn't someone you want to invest in. But Purdy doesn't have the strongest arm, but he is aggressive. He is a gunslinger. And if you take that deep threat off the field, it's truly handicapping what he can do.
So they're not near the same team. I mean, it's just your weapons are what you are. You know what I mean? Like that's the Cowboys of the 90s were Emmett and Irvin and Aikman. And, I mean, your weapons define you. And I always feel like they almost always have, whether it be the Montana era, the Young era, this era, the Kaepernick era. I mean, the guys who handle the football mean so much. And they kind of define what kind of team you are. And when you change them out, that kind of changes the team. The fact that the Niners don't have Drake Jackson and don't know what they're going to get out of Robert Beal. And then, of course, they got changes on the offensive line, but I kind of thought the offensive line played all right. And I thought, they opened some run lanes early, and I thought Pooney looked pretty good. Do the Niners now need to, if they do move Aiyuk, get a defensive end? Seems like they're probably 24 or 48 hours away from jumping into the defensive end market.
I mean, they're so dependent on Leonard Floyd being good and healthy. And I know he's been that the last few years, but he's also 32 years old. And for them to just be like, oh yeah, Leonard doesn't miss games. Like, well, what if this is the year that he finally breaks down, as all football players eventually do, 32-year-old DN. What happens to this defense? And all of a sudden you need Yatir Gross-Matos to play 75% of the snaps, and you have no backup DNs that you want on the. I mean, really, if Leonard Floyd goes down, Nick Bosa and Gross-Matos have to play like all the snaps. Who else do you trust? Right. All of them. So, I mean, I don't know who you go out and get, but it's like Beal and Drake Jackson are zeros. So they got to get someone else. I would think so.
There's a report out of New England this afternoon that the Patriots have several trade suitors for Matthew Judon. Makes me wonder if John Lynch is one of those suitors. It would not surprise me if they were, because they're inside their Super Bowl window. They have $32 million of cap room. They have a severe need. Drake Jackson is already done for the year. And Beal, I don't know, Grant. I mean, Beal is big and fast, and he's added some weight. I guess he's close to 265, and he looks great, and he's a great practice player, but he just doesn't. I don't know how much they can actually lean on him. And in the current configuration of their D-line, they are leaning on him. So they badly need another defensive end. Maybe they're in the mix there for the New England kid.
The problem with that is that the Niners are over here, playing hardball with Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk and trying to argue why they don't have a few extra million here and there to give them. And then they turn around and trade for Hassan Reddick or Matthew Judon, someone, and give them an extension. It's like, okay, now we're fortified at the end. Now, Brandon, we're going to need you to take a discount. Trent, come on, be reasonable. They're in a tough spot.
They are.
They do need another DM, but almost one who's not too expensive. Like, who's that guy?
Yeah. Maybe a young guy. The Bears have a lot of DNs. Maybe Dominic Robinson. I mean, somebody like that. Let's hit a couple supers, and then we'll hit our BetUS. We're both brought to you by BetUS. Chris, Steelers will offer a second and a fourth. That's all.
Apparently, they won't even offer the second.
Yeah, I mean,
can we talk about that for a second? I want to talk about the Steelers. The report is they haven't offered a second or a third. That seems like a team that's messing with the Niners, man.
Well, what are they offering? I mean, I don't know
what.
I mean, first of all, I said it before, and I'll stay with it. Draft pick compensation doesn't work here. And the only way draft pick compensation works here at all is if it's overwhelming. If it's like, yeah, you know what? They traded Aiyuk in the middle of their Super Bowl run, but they did get the Patriots' number one pick, and it is going to be third overall. Okay. That's why you trade for draft picks. Other than that, trading a 26-year-old foundation piece offensive player in August for 2025 draft choices when Trent Williams and George Kittle and Nick Bosa are all in their super prime, and some people were talking about this is the last dance. I mean, that's a non-starter. I think the fans are sophisticated enough, smart enough, sharp enough to just rip the hell out of that if that happens. So they're not going to like that.
What I think is so interesting about this Aiyuk story is like just the timeline. Let's say the Niners trade Aiyuk tomorrow for whatever. At that point, you're like, man, why didn't you do this months ago? Whatever you got now, you would have got more months ago. And let's say they sign him tomorrow for whatever. Wouldn't people be like, man, why didn't you get this done weeks ago? Why did he miss half of training camp? Whatever happens now, it feels like the Niners were indecisive. And that's not good.
Lynch claimed to us weeks ago that they started the negotiation period early, but obviously not early enough. I mean, if they're at where they're at right now. All right, let's hit a couple more of these supers. We've got Smack Jones _919. He says, the chosen one, Grant. Fool for that video.
I put a thumbnail out with Robbie Chosen. I call him the chosen one.
Oh, I got you.
I had to. He is the chosen one for today.
There you go. It's not LeBron. It's
Kyle was a big fan of him 8 years ago. So
once upon a time, he ran 4.34.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Colamarino, in your guys' opinion, are star wide receivers overrated? Historically, Moss, T.O., Fitz, CJ, CC, etc. Marvin needed 18. AB needed TB. Of the top 20 paid wide receivers, 2 Super Bowls, Hill without Pat in Cup. Will JJ win us? I mean, I hear what he's saying. He's basically saying, hey, look, Tyreek Hill, wanted the big bag. Kansas City said no. He went to Miami. He hasn't even played. He hasn't got a single. He's played in one playoff game. He hasn't got a playoff win. And the Chiefs, since trading him, have 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Devontae, Green Bay's right there. They're not missing him. They got a better cap, and he's in Las Vegas saying, I can't believe Jimmy G was this bad. I mean, there's reasons to not pay these guys. I mean, supply and demand is another one. There's a tremendous supply of receivers, and there's not the demand that you have for quarterbacks. So I don't know. What do you think of the theory of paying or not paying the superstar wideout?
It seems like you probably shouldn't pay them. All the evidence points to not paying them because the most expensive positions are quarterback, D-end, offensive tackle, wide receiver. Those are like the top 4. And quarterback, you understand it. They're the most important position in sports. They touch the ball every play. D-end affect every play. Offensive tackles affect every play. Wide receivers don't. They are sexy position. It's a sexy position. They have big highlights. They have stats. They're on your fantasy team, but
they're quarterback dependent.
Yeah. They catch 7-8 passes a game at most. They're not really a big factor on run plays, even if they're blocking down the field sometimes. You can take a wide receiver out of the game with double coverage in ways that you can't take a quarterback out of a game. It's probably a bad usage of $30 million a year.
Yeah. And yet
you do it if you're not paying a quarterback.
Right. And it's like, if you're going to pay both the quarterback and the receiver, you're going to be in a cap strap situation. And then you look at Kansas City, they've won the last couple of years, and they've done it with a bevy of different receivers.
Look at Buffalo. They look at Kansas City, win back-to-back, and they're like, all right, I guess we'll trade Stephon Diggs. And everyone's like, well, what are you doing? How can you just trade Stephon Diggs? Because it wasn't working, spending that much money on 2 players. So they got rid of Stephon Diggs. And that's like, I thought the Niners understood that. I thought what they were basically doing all offseason is like, look, Brandon, like, we like you, but we're going to pay Brock, and it just doesn't make sense to pay both of you. So sorry, but now they're going to pay him? Like, what do they want to do? What is their philosophy? If they decided in March, like, it's not a way to win a Super Bowl to pay both of you, I would have completely respected it. Make a decision, make a trade, move on, explain it to your fans. But now it's like, I still don't know what they want to do.
I know. I mean, it's like, as far as message sending goes, it comes across as very wishy-washy. Like, we like our player, we respect our player, we want him, but only at our price. And if it's his price, we don't want him anymore. Now we don't, and we want to trade him.
No, if it's his price,
we want a great
we want him here on the 5th-year option. We don't care what kind of distraction that'll have or what kind of strain that'll put in our locker room. Like, okay, I'll call your bluff. I feel like the Steelers are just in Pittsburgh being like, okay, we call your bluff. We want to see what that looks like in October, and then we'll talk to you at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, and they're just, and they haven't, what kills me as somebody who's covering the 49ers is that there's so many Steeler people in my chat, so many Steeler people in my mentions, and they're all just, they're excited. Why? Because they know they're going to get, or they feel like they're going to get Brandon Aiyuk for pennies on the dollar. And so they're just waiting for an update. And for the Niner fans, it's almost like impending doom. Roger Seller says he's a new member. Way to go, Roger. Always give a little clap to the new members. We got another one here from JMC, or JM617, member for 16 months over on Grant's side. The coach's huddle says, we touched on the flat disposition of practice. This has been going on for weeks. I agree. I don't think this summer has felt the same without Aiyuk. I really don't. I don't know. He's that dynamic. I mean, he really is. He's a very dynamic player. And when you take great players off the field, you notice the difference. You absolutely do. Samuel Anderson said Hassan Reddick for BA. What do you think? Niners would rather pay D-line than wide receivers. Would Aiyuk play for the Jets? Hassan Reddick basically, I guess, has done the same thing. He got traded from the Eagles to the Jets, but he said he wasn't happy. He said he wasn't going to show up. Sure enough, he's not happy, and wants out now of the Jets. We'll see if he gets dealt. But another guy, maybe this fifth-year option thing's maybe the fifth-year option thing, Grant's a little more problematic than the league. Maybe that, we're seeing a number of teams and players getting kind of tripped up on this fifth-year option. To me, the way Aiyuk discusses it, you would almost think that he doesn't understand it, or his agent doesn't understand it, because he keeps asking, playing on the fifth-year option is just totally ridiculous. That's the contract. That's what's been negotiated by by the players union and the CBA, is for him to play on that fifth-year option. Only the Niners, kindness or good, positive approach to the negotiations. The Niners in no way are obligated to do this whole thing now. So that's where he's kind of losing, I think, a lot of momentum, is that they don't have to do anything. They're not really motivated to do anything.
It just feels to me like a messy divorce.
It is.
And both sides are refusing to leave the house. You know what I mean? It's no, you have to stay here for $14 million. You're going to like it. It's like, we can make your life miserable. It's like, well, he can make your life miserable. You guys are just going to make each other's lives miserable. And that's such a distraction from winning the Super Bowl. Just move on, move out, and focus on the future. How is this the year when you're involved in petty infighting with someone you're already divorced from? It's just move on.
What do you think their mindset is? Do you think their mindset is, hey, you know what? It's football, and any great wide receiver could go down between now and the trade deadline, and we want to be there at that moment to have the wide receiver that lots of people like and want. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't understand really what is going to change from the status quo that's going to move this, that's going to kick this can down the road. I mean, do you see anything unblocking this drain? We need a little NFL Drano. That's what we need. We need some NFL Drano.
I don't see it. I mean, last week there was a report that the Niners have re-engaged Aiyuk in contract talks, and they're hopeful they'll get it done. Now it's been a week and they haven't done. It seems like what it's going to take. It's not a guess. It's not a mystery. Whatever Pittsburgh offered, you need to match that sort of after taxes. Otherwise, you're going to force him to play on the fifth-year option. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're going to match that offer, and which means I don't think they're going to get an extension done. Do you think they're going to get an extension done?
I think he's going to give in before the Niners are going to give in. I don't.
Is that why they're hopeful? Because they think he's going to give in?
I think they think he's going to give in.
Whew. You hear that, Brandon?
I think Parag. Well, first of all, both sides are playing super hardball at this point, right? And I think Parag is going to play super hardball back and just let him sit. I mean, if the 49ers don't answer his phone calls, if the 49ers don't answer Omar Khan's phone calls, if the 49ers decide they're going to save some money and just get rid of their phone system altogether and don't have phones, and nobody can reach them, how does that,
that's fine. I mean,
don't they? I mean, it's a distraction, and they're not going to have him, but they're also not going to lose the asset at a law. I mean, I guess from this point, I guess my question would be this: these teams are very popular. These fan bases are very passionate. What's going to happen to the popularity of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan? What's going to hurt their popularity more? That they don't come to a conclusion with Aiyuk, and he sits there holding out at home, or they make a bad trade and he goes to Pittsburgh and plays well, and they get the whatever's coming back in a one-sided bad trade. I kind of think that they might be safer to not make the trade and let him hold out and just see what happens than make a bad trade and have the people just screaming, fire John Lynch. No?
Yeah, but I feel like the story here is how they've put themselves in a no-win situation. Let's say they trade him now for picks next year and they start off 2-4. Everyone will be mad. Well, why'd you trade Aiyuk? What are you doing?
Right.
But let's say you keep Aiyuk and he doesn't play, he holds out the first 6 games of the year because you didn't get an extension done, and you're forcing him to play in the 5th-year option, and you start out 2-6, well, then you messed that one up too. I feel like what we're seeing now is on August 12th, there's like no right answer here. They messed this up. This is something they should have resolved.
Winning will cure all.
Sure, it will. It's absolutely,
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Man.
You're
a
right.
list of 25 reasons why it doesn't look like that's going to happen right away, but I don't know. You never know.
No, you're right. No, but I mean, if they win, people will eventually be all right with it. But you're right. If they don't,
if Ricky Pearsall plays great, if they win, if but like all the indicators right now is, oh my God, Super Bowl hangover. Like they could lose week 1 to the Jets. That's what's it's looking like right now.
No, I know.
If they lose to Sam Darnold week 2, oh my God.
Well, I mean, there will be mass panic if they lose to the Jets.
Yeah.
And there probably should be. I mean, the Jets are a lousy organization. They haven't won since the day I was born. I mean, seriously, it's been a long time. Lawless Light says, judging from the first game, what is a glaring weakness? It's a good question. Based on what you saw against Tennessee, and we didn't see a bunch of players, so it's hard to evaluate everything. But based on what you saw, Grant, what would you say jumps out to you as a glaring weakness? Or just a weakness?
I mean, the run defense still seemed like a weakness. Now, the starters weren't out there, but like they still couldn't defend a crack toss. They still couldn't defend a zone read. I mean, just the run defense in general seems like something they haven't fixed yet from a schematic standpoint.
Yeah. That definitely was one of the things to me. I'm a little worried just about their ability to rush the passer. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got Floyd and you got Bosa and you got Yatir Gross-Matos, and then inside, I guess Hargrave. We'll see what kind of year he bounces back with. But to me, for a team that wide 9, they want to come at you in waves. They just seem. I mean, they haven't had any games except for the one, and we haven't had any run on injuries, and yet they're still relatively thin.
And now Kalia Davis is down.
I think that's a problem. That defensive line.
Kalia Davis all of a sudden looked like a guy who could be a factor for them. I mean, he looked like a legit impact player. And now, I mean, hopefully midseason, who knows? He's injured at his knee so many times. Now the D linemen they need to step up are like 32-year-old Leonard Floyd, 31-year-old Javon Hargrave, 29-year-old Malik Collins. That's a pretty old D line.
I know. And they're missing, a great young player on this line in the interior. Joseph Stockbridge says, I want to see more nerve by Shanahan, play calls and less field goals. He limits himself too often, starts to get your quarterback's personality, fall in love, protect at all costs, more successful drives, Kyle. I think this is actually kind of a major one. I think Kyle needs to throw out the old kind of thought process and adapt the new analytical thought process that the Eagles and the Ravens and some of these teams have. And I think it burned him last year in the Super Bowl. If you ask me what burned him more, everybody will point to the protection breakdown, but I thought it was the mindset, because if the Eagles had gotten into that 3rd and 4, they would have run the ball on 3rd down to set up a 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And Kyle's mind is just not wired that way. And that's the analytics modern 3rd and 4 approach. He's thinking one good pass play and then go for the field goal. I think the modern analytics way to play is the way to go. And I believe strongly in that. I think he's got to start going for more 3rd and 4 runs to set up 4th and short run.
Yeah. I think the way teams are looking at it now is the rules are set up to favor offense. So let's win the game with our offense. Let's give our offense 4 opportunities to win the game. And what's crazy is that Kyle has this incredible offense. It's ranks number 1 in so many different statistics, but year after year after year, NFC Championship games, Super Bowls, if they're in a 4th quarter and it's close and they have a 4th down in the other team's territory, he's punting or kicking a field goal every time. It's or damn near every time. It's quite disconcerting for a guy who's supposed to be brash and aggressive and unstoppable, who is most of the time. But man, he puckers up and gets awfully conservative in those moments. That's a problem.
He's got Mike Shanahan 80s, 90s mentality in 2024 when the analytics crowd is saying, do something on third down to set up your fourth and short. And he's thinking one play and they're thinking two. I just think it's a mindset that he needs to adjust to. I really believe that. I think if they had had that mindset,
and that's why he fired Steve Wilks. He's like, man, I gave you a 3-point lead. What are you going to come on? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Win with your offense.
Beatbox Basics says Chris Jones held out until week 2 last year, then came to a 1-year compromise. Also, Krug, the TV in the background is really distracting. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I'll pick a better spot next time.
That is true. It's like, what if Aiyuk just holds out game at a time and sees how the Niners do? If the Niners lose game after game, then his leverage increases. Or if they win, then his leverage decreases. I mean, they could sort of play that game of chicken into the season until the trade deadline. Doesn't it feel like that's the kind of year this is going to be?
Yeah, the most drama for Emmitt Smith back in the day, and now if you could just get Charles Haley to scare the owner. The Black Hammer says Bleacher Report thinks Niners are in on Hassan Reddick. They probably are. They love that pass rush. They're inside their Super Bowl window. We just talked about it. The 49ers need another edge rusher.
Yeah, but the reason he wants to trade is because the Jets won't extend his contract. I mean, I think he's made it pretty clear, like, don't trade for me unless you're going to extend my contract. And
he's
if the Niners extend Hassan Reddick's contract at 30 years old, but not Aiyuk or Trent Williams, I'm going to have to wonder what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. And then there'll be a lot of wondering in that room as well. Yeah. Lawless Light says, in all honesty, why the hell did we get Ricky? Because they wanted to dial up the heat on the receivers and they wanted to have a replacement guy. To me, I would have gone for Xavier Legette. I don't get the Pearsall thing. We'll see. Pearsall's effective route runner with ball skills. Legette's big, strong, fast, and I think with more upside. We'll see. We'll see. What
they also drafted Pearsall because they saw this problem with Aiyuk coming a mile away and there's no resolution in sight. My question is, why didn't they draft an offensive tackle too? Because that was just as obvious.
Yeah, that's a good point. Williams thing. And also, if they're going to draft a receiver, I mean, look at Debo, look at Aiyuk, look how physical, look how big and strong those guys are. And then look at Cowing and look at Pearsall. I mean, if there was a fight between Aiyuk and Debo and Cowing and Pearsall, they would stop it. If the 49ers found out that Debo and Aiyuk wanted to kick the crap out of Cowing and Pearsall, they'd call security for Cowing and Pearsall.
It's true.
Those, you know what I'm saying? These guys are not anything physically similar.
No.
Let's see. We got this
also, I understand why they drafted Bernardo Green in round 2. Good player. You might have to replace some corners next year, but you could have had Kingsley Suamataia. He seems to be doing well with the Chiefs. You need an offensive tackle. Boy, that would have helped. Him and Pooney on the same line would have been nice. But, Green's a good player.
Or defensive end or defensive tackle. Rafael Flores, they signed Chosen because he is a black Ricky. I don't know if that is actually the case. Lawless Light says, why the hell are we paying people to come back instead of giving BA his money? The Niners even value number 1 wideouts? They run the ball more than any team in pro football. That much we know. Rafael Flores, can we get some Crabtree memories from y'all too? Crabtree, my Crabtree memory is in the Super Bowl. And that the last play in the Super Bowl. It's like, are you kidding me? We've got Frank Gore and we're going fade to Crabtree in the corner. I mean, Jim Harbaugh. I think if I had one interview with Jim Harbaugh, I think my first question is, why the fade to Crabtree?
I have a good Crabtree story. It's 2014. This was the year when they were going down. Similar vibes to this year. This was the last Harbaugh year, and Crabtree wasn't having a good year. The entire offense was struggling, and we went up to his locker one day, and we were kind of tiptoeing around the question. He had a foot injury, and we were like, man, is it the Achilles? And he's like, why are you asking me about my foot? Why are you asking me about my foot? And I had enough of him. I'd been covering him for a while, and I was like, well, Michael, your numbers are down this year, and we're all asking you if the foot is the reason that your numbers are down. So I'll just ask it, why are your numbers down, Michael? And he just smiled at me like, man, I like you. He's like, well, he's like, well, Vernon's numbers are down too. And I was, that's true. That's true. And then we were walking out to practice and I happened to be near Vernon and Crabtree comes up and he goes, Vernon, He wants to know why our numbers are down, man. He wants to know why our numbers are down. So that was the only cool, human moment I ever had with Michael Crabtree. He seemed like a funny guy.
Yeah, he was an awesome player at Texas Tech, and he was a pretty good player in the NFL. I mean, I didn't quite have the career I thought he was going to have. The Niners have a couple receivers like that. J.J. Stokes was good, but didn't have quite the career I thought he would have. And same with Crabtree.
Crabtree was damn good in 2012, and then he tore his Achilles in 2013.
Yeah,
he was damn good in 2012.
Yeah, he was good in the Super Bowl. Didn't he score a touchdown in the Super Bowl?
He was so good after he was the kind of guy who had this big catch radius. He was a very good route runner. He was fearless over the middle, and then he would get 6 yards after the catch. He's a very good player.
Shane, we're coming down the home stretch here. Shane Cole Marino says, Larry, is this how all negotiations and trades go behind the scenes? Is this just the most public it's ever gotten? They don't all go like this. They definitely don't all go like this. I don't know exactly how I would describe this even. The 49ers made some mistakes. I think Aiyuk has made some mistakes. I think that's probably the best way to sum this up. Joshua Wyatt, 49ers will not sell cheap. John wouldn't with Jimmy, and he won't with BA. I honestly believe John will be unwilling to be perceived to lose a trade. Well, that's good. As far as I'm concerned, John Lynch should fight for the Niners because that's who he represents. Fine. And Jaguayo 56 says either Minka, Freiermuth, or Pickens, and a 2 and a 3. Okay, Grant, that was the report that I told you earlier from a Pittsburgh source. If you could have, let's say the Steelers would offer you one of those picks, obviously you're going to take the 2 over the 3. But let's just say the Steelers offered that, because that's not what the Steelers offered. That's what the Niners asked for. If the Niners asked for a 2 and a 3, and the Steelers are giving them a 3, obviously not the 2. Niner fans would want the 2. But of those 3 players, if we asked Niner fans, who do you think they would want for Aiyuk between George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and Minkah Fitzpatrick?
I would want Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he's a hell of a player. I think Kyle would want George Pickens because he's a wide receiver.
I think I would want Minkah too, because that's what the Niners. That would give the Niners. Minkah was good in Miami, but he's great in Pittsburgh. And we have lawless lights as the Niners are walking. They're a walking contradiction. We value pass rush, yet we don't value pass protection.
Correct. That is an inherent contradiction. Good call.
We've talked about that. Shanahan said it 3 weeks ago. Heck, Chris Forster said it. He said, in the second, third, and fourth round, there's impact guys on skill positions, and there aren't impact offensive linemen. So
yeah, but then they went out and got Dominic Pooney, who looks to be good in pass protection. So maybe they do value it. They just, I don't know. He looks like a good pick so far. I want to shout out Dominic Pooney. Nice.
He does. He does look good.
Yeah.
Who, outside of Pooney, who would you say impressed you before we get to our BetUS?
Mustafa. I think it's Pooney and Mustafa right now are the two most impressive by far. Like Ronaldo Green has promise, but Mustafa looks like he's jumping off the screen. And before they trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, you might want to see what Mustafa can do with the starters. Wow.
I was very impressed with Mustafa. I'll tell you the guy who impressed me is Jordan Mason. We've been saying that for 3 years. But Jordan Mason, my goodness, what a monster!
He's so difficult to tackle.
I'm looking at the I watched a little bit of Dallas this weekend. Dallas doesn't have a single back that's as good as any of the Niner backs.
Yeah,
Elijah Mitchell to the Cowboys, I could see happening at the end of camp, just because I just feel like the Cowboys have no good backs, and the Niners have a bevy of good backs and probably too many. All right, let's go with BetUS. Are you looking for a new book this football season? Well, BetUS is the answer. With BetUS, you get the fastest payouts in the industry and easy withdrawals, live wagering on all major games. Plus, you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. On top of that, you also get your own personal account manager. Use the link below and sign up for BetUS today and get a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000. So be sure to use the link below and sign up for BetUS and help support the show. And of course, Grant's is a pitch man for BetUS, as am I. We're going to go with some season totals here. I dialed up some season totals. Let me share the screen here because it's a lot more fun if you actually do that. So we'll share the screen. There we go. There we go. Boom. All right. And I'm gonna go with the 49ers. Let's see. Well, let's hit one season total here. I'm thinking Niners since we're a Niners centric deal. They have the over under at 13.5 wins. The over is plus 350. The under is minus 500. I think we're both under 13.5. Are you? So what? Anything under 14-3, and you're I mean, if you're going under, you got to get to 13-4, and then you're fine. 14-3. Anything under 14-3, and you're a winner. I'm going on.
Larry, does this seem like a team that's going to go 14-3?
No, not only that, they have eight games where they have a rest disadvantage. On that alone, they're going under. So I'm going to say under. So we'll do that, and then we'll come over here. I bet 20 last time. Maybe do I go 20?
That's a reasonable amount.
That's a reasonable amount, but it only wins $4. Let's go with more. I don't want to go with 20. Let's go with 100. Wait. If you go at 2,100, you win 420. That's interesting. No. We won't go there. Okay, well, we'll go 100.
Why don't you bet $2,000 on that one? I think that's a pretty safe bet.
I'm going to say 2,000 on under. Let's go with 500.
Just go all in.
Yeah, well, I'm going 500. It's the most I can bet. My wife, if she sees me betting more than 500, she's going to come down here.
Okay, fair enough.
So there you go. Place the bet. There you go. And wait, did I place it? Yes, I did. Oh yeah, I may have to X out of that. There we go. Place my bet. And we have placed the bet, and there it is. So I can win 100. I bet 500 to win 100. But under 13.5, I feel pretty good. I think that's pretty good money right there. I think that's pretty easy money. That's an easy C note. What do you think?
If the Niners win 14 games this year, I'll eat my shirt.
Seriously. No, they're not. I mean, come on. With this schedule, and they play Kansas City, and division's getting better.
Did any team win 14 games last year? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, because the Niners were the 1 seed.
No.
So there you go. BetUS, once again, are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. So be sure to use the link below, sign up for BetUS, and help support both Grant's show and my show. And thanks to BetUS for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show and the Cohn Zone. All right, a couple more here that we want to get to before we jet for the night. We got this one from Rafael Flores. He says, "Thank you guys for your stories. How about that boy Trey? Oh, did you watch any of Trey against the Rams this weekend, Grant? What'd you think?
I did. I thought
his numbers faster. They said he looked terrible, but his numbers weren't terrible.
No, he didn't look terrible. I thought he looked more decisive. I thought he looked faster. I thought he looked healthier. It seemed like he's finally over that ankle injury. And I mean, he completed 60% of his throws. He looked fine. I mean, he's not going to be their backup this year, but it's nice that they gave him the whole game to play. That's how you have to try to develop him, and he'll get 2 more games, and we'll see what he looks like after 3 of these.
Someone said to me, is there any themes that are starting to develop at 49er camp? I would say the injuries are a theme. The Aiyuk and Trent Williams holdouts are major themes. The run defense, I think, is a theme to watch. But I would say the other theme on a positive note is the 49ers quietly in the last 3 years have assembled an awful lot of talent in their secondary. And they just have an awful lot of good young players back there. It's just, I don't know I don't know if Luter, Womack, I think we talked to Diamador Lenore today. He had a wonderful interception at the end of practice. I think Lenore is going to have a monster year. It just seems like the defensive backfield is primed for a tremendous year. And I'm not sure exactly who's going to be the stars back there. It just seems they seem so fortified with so much depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's safety between Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga, and Malik Mustafa. That looks like 3 quality safeties they drafted. And then you have Diamador Lenore, and Renardo Green, 2 quality corners they drafted, 5 really good DBs that they got in like mid rounds. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. And then they went out and signed Travarius Ward. He's been worth every penny. They deserve a lot of credit for that too. And then we'll see about Isaac Yiadom. He rolled his ankle and walked through. So that's unfortunate, but he should be back by week 1.
I don't know if you caught any of the other games around the NFL or, if you caught any of the preseason at all, Grant, but I caught a little bit of Steelers Texans, and wow. The Steelers, I watched it because I wanted to see, who's looking good for the Steelers, but instead I caught myself watching the Texans. The Texans are monster. The Texans, watch out for the Texans, not because they won 20-12 at Heinz Field, but they've got, great receivers, this awesome young quarterback, phenomenal defensive ends, incredible secondary. It's just multiple running backs, all kinds of weapons, Dalton Schultz, good offensive tackles. The Texans, they made that amazing trade for, Deshaun Watson, and it makes that Herschel Walker trade look like nothing. They got all kinds of talent, and I just think Kansas City's going to be, the top dog in the AFC until proven otherwise. I just think Houston is coming, man. Houston looks like a juggernaut to me.
I agree. That's going to be a good team.
Be a good team.
Green Bay, Detroit. Those are going to be good ones too. I'm curious to see like what kind of defense the Rams and the Eagles have, because the Rams and the Eagles just spend everywhere on offense, quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver. Like you can't spend on anything on defense when you do that. So I'm curious to see what those draft picks can do. It seems like at least the Niners are a little bit more balanced than the freaking Rams. How many players can you name on the Rams team, on the Rams defense?
Well, they just lost Aaron Donald, so not very many. Seriously, it's a big note. Darion Kendrick. I know they have Darion Kendrick,
Okay.
but I think he's hurt.
That's pretty good.
They have a guy named Troy Reader. I remember that.
There you go.
Seriously. Byron Young. They have
There
Byron
you go.
Young, who's a pretty good pass rusher.
Okay.
I'm seriously, that might be it. The guys they just drafted, Braden Fisk and Jared Verse from Florida State.
Christian Roseboom.
Yeah, no.
Kobe Turner.
Kobe Turner's good. He had a great year last year. He's a good young tackle.
Cameron Curl. Tre'Davious White. Are you kidding?
I know.
Wow.
Seriously. Tre'Davious White was a great corner 3 years ago, pre-Achilles.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, exactly.
They should get Jason Verrett and Richard Sherman too.
Jason Verrett.
Jeez.
God, poor Jason Verrett never could ever stay healthy. I think we get a couple more supers here. Did you just really throw away $500? Yeah, that's the way I roll. So that's just
Joshua. You think they're winning at 14? Or did you put the over or under?
No, I put under.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Yeah, unless I screwed that up.
You're definitely going to win $100.
Let me go back and check that. Actually, let's see. Did I go under or over? Under. Yeah, under 13.5 wins. Are you kidding me? I'm sitting chilly. Drinks are on me later this year. That's money well spent right there. That's a winner chicken dinner. Rafael Flores says 2024 season does feel like 2014. Hopefully not. Oh God, 2014. Back to now, we're going back to is that the Harbaugh 8-8 year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God. Oh. Yeah. Grant, anything you want to add? When are you streaming again on the Cohn Zone?
Tomorrow morning at 11, me and my dad, Cohn Zone. And then I'll be at Lake Chabot in the afternoon trying to get in a little golf. It's not as frequent as it was in the off season, but you pick your spots.
This is your new passion.
Sure. I'm not good at it. I'm not good enough at it to call it a passion, but it's a hobby that I enjoy.
Here's the thing about that. It's funny. My teenage son, who's just graduated high school, has been playing with his buddies this summer and using my clubs. And golf is an awesome thing, man. It's fun. And it's impossible. So it's like every good shot you make, that's got to be the one that brings you back, right? Because I just chunk up earth. I was telling you, I can putt, I can drive, I can chip. 2 iron, 3 iron, 4 iron, 5 iron, 6 iron, 7 iron. That's my problem spot right there.
What I like about golf is it allows you to feel like
irons.
It allows you to feel like an athlete when you're getting a little bit older. Like, I can't play indoor soccer anymore. I used to play indoor soccer in my late 20s. A lot of fun. It's over. Those days are over for me. But, I don't have to like go into pickleball just yet. Like, I'm not 70. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can playing golf and playing like a good round makes you feel like you're in the peak of your powers. It's nice. I like it. Hand-eye coordination.
By the way, I've seen you. You did like at least somewhere around 15 to 25 pull-ups, which is probably 15 to 25 more than I could do.
That was last year.
I saw that video last year. Are you going to do
off a little bit?
Are you going to do a pull-up video this year? So we can
when I get back up to 15, but right now I can probably do about 7. So I don't think I need to videotape that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle. Thanks to BetUS. Thanks to Grant. Thanks to all of you. Have a great day. Live from Santa Clara. We're out on the Krug Show and the Cohn Zone.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what